For left in the blue for Apprentice Esports, representing North America and Pro Tour players everywhere, it's DisK.
And his opponent spotting down in the bottom right for Starlight Twinkle. The funniest team name out there, it is Cham.
I mean, Steadfast, is it Starlight Twinkle or is it Little Fairy?
Wait, this... Oh, the funniest names. I was like, no, he's on Starlight Twinkle for sure. I mean, Little Fairy is definitely pretty funny, but I don't think we have any players on Little Fairy that are in the big tournaments. Who do they have on their team that's like...
They had Forjumi, who got knocked out. There's another, I forget, they have at least one other player that was playing in, at least in the group stage, that didn't make playoffs, but I forget who it was. But yeah, at least they have Forjumi, so there is that.
True. I mean, Forjumi is very good. I'm a big fan of Forjumi. Best broken arm performance at a Home Story Cup ever. He is just a fun player and an awesome kid. I really like Forjumi. He's a good kid. Now, we are going to get into this PVZ here. DisK not electing to go for a block on his opponent's hatchery. He is, in fact, going to go for a very standard gateway scout timing. And Cham, he's going to be happy about that. I mean, not a whole lot often happens in these early game PvPs, and DisK is not a player that I think really likes to deviate away from the Stargate Oracle play. We'll see if he maybe busts something out with a little bit of prep time. But I'm interested. Cham, he is the player, though, that I expect will have quite a few curveballs ready to go.
Oh, absolutely. The man, he's got some really solid macro play, but you're right, he does have that ability. Honestly, all the South American Zergs and the Latin American Zergs have this ability to just do something kind of crazy. See, I like this, sends the drone either side. Says, you're going to try to block me, maybe, so I'm just going to send both out. DisK, though, just drops the GG, drops the spray on top, and it's going to be fine. But the other thing to point out here, Steadfast, is despite the fact that we're in Americas now, and this is this big combined region, DisK and Cham, before this game here, have only played each other 4 times in Legacy of the Void. It's 3-1 Cham's favor, but that, again, they don't have a lot of history. Yes, they do play on the similar servers. Probably they practice against each other, but that's in a setup like this, that's kind of a dearth of competitive experience. And if you're a DisK and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen, not having that history to fall back on, it's not going to feel the most comfortable.
No, but at the same time, there is a lot of plays versus other players that he could study. And there are replays available from, IEM Katowice's and many other tournaments that if DisK was, willing and ready to put in the work for, he can absolutely get that specialized preparation. Now, Cham is going to get a little bit supply blocked here, but he pre-built an extra Overlord, so it's going to end up being no supply block whatsoever. He was prepared for the Oracle to come in and snipe this one. Good job planning for the future as the Zerg player, and it's pretty nice.
No, he did.
Will be a very quick Evo chamber from Cham, and that's something that has fallen out of favor a little bit because we don't have that +2 melee baneling timing that one-shots probes anymore. It just doesn't exist with the most recent patch, but you still can do a lot with +1 melee lings in terms of defending against Blink Stalker pushes.
Yeah, certainly. And yeah, you're right. It's nice against the Stalkers. It's nice against presumably how DisK wants to play. Where again, DisK has always been one of these players. You talk about the Stargate opener and putting that value on. DisK has always been one of these players that really likes his Blink Stalkers, that really appreciates the micro and the ability to be active on the map. But this surround from the Lings, it's going to force the Oracles back, and it's going to force some energy out of them. Not much more than that. But yeah, again, knowing what Cham knows about how DisK likes to play, and honestly how Protoss have been playing for the most part for the last year and a half, it's still solid. It's still fairly nice. But the question now is, is this a pure Ling Bane? Unlikely from Cham. Where does he transition out of this? Or into this, really?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of options. You can still play Roachling Bane Ravager, but it's not as powerful as it was. It's actually significantly less powerful. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see some Hydra play. Now, great micro here from DisK with the Oracles, able to grab a couple more drones into that natural expansion clean micro. And yeah, he's not a whole lot has happened, but solid play from DisK so far. And it's going to be a robotics facility to follow this up. Question is, will this be for quick Colossus, or will this be for just maybe an observer, a warp prism, and a little bit more aggression? And as we see actually the 5th and 6th gas coming on in, I'm starting to wonder if we might even see a quick storm potentially.
And on top of this, Cham, dude, he's being so greedy right now. Yeah, I understand that you want a bunch of hatcheries. If you're playing Ling heavy, it's really nice. Cham's taking his 4th and 5th base at the same time as he's pumping Lings out behind this, and he actually is gonna get ready to hit this +1 Ling speed time or +1 melee Ling timing. And it looks like he might try to crack down on that 3rd base, but the defense right now with the shield battery and the depth, it's not gonna be easy. That being said, Banelings are ready to run in, and this is one of the... Cham's had this build for a while. He really likes doing this against Stargate play, and we're gonna have to see how well it's gonna work. Now the Banelings getting on top of the shield battery, maybe, but the probes are gonna stay alive, and round 1 of the aggression from Cham is not gonna work out, but he's gonna look for a surround right now. Shield battery not popped, not just yet, but an Archon will fall, and there we go. Overcharge done, so Cham's gonna have to back up, but he's got more where that came from. 4 more Banelings on the way, Steadfast. This is a wild way to play.
I mean, it's just a little bit of pressure in the mid game. The thing is, it hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
And it's pretty expensive. We are going to see the Lings trying to catch these Stalkers. A little bit of an awkward situation for DisK. The main thing I'm worried about is that the probes get it. Oh, wow. Okay. Looks like the Banelings did get cleaned up just before they killed those probes. That was so close. Look at how many red probes there are in that mineral line. That is so much potential damage. That is, I'm just doing some quick counting right there. I believe that's 14 probes that are all red. And if one more Baneling had connected, that could have been a disaster. But instead, DisK keeps everything alive. He's going to counterattack with a lot of Blinkstalker Sentry. And it is not going to be Quick Storm. It is going to be a rather dedicated 3-base push. DisK, can he get the job done? Stasis Ward's in the back. Not going to get too much done. The Ling counterattack on the backside of this army is very good. Force fields, they're going to help initially, but this is a very good break attempt coming in from Cham. Corrosive Vials, not going to be enough to kill the War Prism. And in fact, they don't even hit the War Prism. I guess he didn't care too much maybe, but regardless, he drives this army back, smashes the attack, and DisK, well, he's lost kind of all of his map control, it feels like.
Yeah, this is the power of those +1 Lings. Yes, the attacks, the first ones didn't really work all that well, but you have to be so careful as the Stalker player. Your stasis traps have to be solid. Your force fields have to be where they need to be. Otherwise, we see what just happens. The Stalkers do not kill the Lings fast enough. They start to shred the Stalkers down, the Lings do. And then Cham, he's suddenly up 50 supply. He's up double the army supply. He still has that 4th base. He's got the 5th base done. He's not even really droning out of it necessarily, but it's for that macro, for the more lava. Now on the other side, Lings are going to try to burrow their way through. It's not going to work. And this pressure at the 3rd base as well coming in from Cham. Banelings on the left side. Finally, those probes that took so much damage early on, they're going to start to get punished for it. 14 dead probes, and Lings burrow their way into the main base as well. Cham, first you don't succeed Steadfast. Try again. This time, it's working so much better.
Yes, it most certainly is, but the only reason that it was able to work is because DisK went for a very heavily committed attack with no splash damage.
Yeah.
Pure Blinkstalker Sentry is an army that feels like it doesn't have a whole lot of potential. And I think that he was thinking that Cham was way more committed than he was. It almost feels like Cham baited DisK into the counterattack. If DisK had done what he was doing at the end, where he added on, you know, a 2nd robotics facility and a robotics bay and takes a 4th base, then we have a completely different game. But DisK just lost so much on that attack. Cham basically all-in off 65 drones. Even though he's on 5 bases, you know, just consider that a macro hatch. That isn't anything other than that. I don't know. That's that was a weird attack from DisK, and it really did not pan out.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because we had those builds, right? Hero style defined PvZ last year. You'd go oracles, then you'd move out on the map with +1 with blink and do exactly what DisK was doing, pretty much. But Zergs have started to figure it out better. They learned. Hey, +1 Lings are really solid. I know the drone counts now. I know the timings. And obviously this game is a little weird because Cham did go for that 8 Banelings in 2 pairs, run by, weird stuff. But in general, Zergs have learned how to deal with that. It's not as powerful as it was about a year ago. So, Cham, it would have been nice, you're right, to see the splash. What's also nice, though, Steadfast, is to see a second game in our series. And at the bottom right, in the red, up a game off just so many Lings and so many Banelings and Roaches and Ravagers and all those wonderful things. In the red, it's Cham.
And his opponent spawning up the top left for Apprentice Esports. He needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit after that one. It is DisK. Yeah, I really wonder what the game plan was, because that was basically like a 3-base all-in from DisK, but he had 6 gases. He was on 70 probes. It was just really committed. The only thing I can think of is that he thought Cham was much more committed than he was, or that there was no opportunity for Cham to defend. But that was just a complete misread on the game.
Yeah, and honestly, even if you think that Cham is more committed than he is, that's not a call to attack. If you think Cham is super committed to that timing, just defend. Sit there on your shield batteries and let the Zerg exhaust himself and then go to town. So, like, even on that logic, I don't know, Steadfast, it doesn't, to my ear at least, doesn't really hold up all that much.
Yeah, I don't want to be too critical. Obviously, it is difficult to make the correct read, and Cham did commit a fair number of units. So, like, DisK was definitely ahead. The unfortunate part is he didn't do the right things with that lead that he had. Now, can he make those adjustments on the fly? I think he can. We'll see what happens here on Golden Aura, but I do want to really give credit to Cham, because it did feel like he laid a bit of a trap for DisK very effectively with that game plan.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we need to talk about a little bit when we talk about that pressure coming out of DisK, and you say, oh, it's kind of hero style. The big difference is, well, first of all, there's a robo. Second of all, there were 4 sentries. That's a lot of gas that you're committing. There could be more stalkers and other things. And when your opponent scouts that and they build all those Ravagers and knock the sentries down, they don't provide nearly as much power. And, even a Guardian Shield, which has been buffed and now lasts 2 more seconds against a bunch of Lings, well, you're under the Aegis of the Guardian Shield. The Lings do full damage anyways. I don't know how much I don't know how much I like the idea of that attack. The more of that attack, that build going into it, the more I think about it. Because again, in modern PvZ against a lot of Zerg openers, sentries, they don't do nearly as much as they used to.
No, they do not. Not with Ravagers, as an option. And once again, I have to assume maybe DisK was thinking that his opponent was following up with the Hydras, and that he was going to get in before the Hydras were out in big numbers, and he was going to find his opponent on Ling Bane mostly, as the Hydra count was very low. Maybe, but at that point, you got to be a little bit more on top of your scouting. But once again, we're going to get into game number 2 here, and we've got a very interesting setup already. First of all, Robotic Facility extremely fast here out of DisK, and it is going to be a disruptor drop. Cham scouted this robo so fast, and he canceled his Ling speed, or maybe he was never even building it. I actually didn't pay attention to see if it was on the production tab. Regardless, he goes straight up into a layer, and a very quick second gas, and a Roach Warren. So he's going to get an extremely fast Roach speed.
That being said, moving into disruptor drops against any sort of attack, right? With a robo and maybe a Warp Prism and robo or Immortals or something. Okay, fine. Against a disruptor drop, well, Steadfast, Roaches are good against many things. Disruptors, especially against Ravagers, have kind of been considered as a response, a bit of a counter to Roaches. Roaches don't split all that well. They're not all that fast, even with Roach speed. Certainly off creep, they're not all that fast. It's hard to dodge the balls. So I understand why Cham's doing what he's doing, but given the fact that this is a drop, I really don't hate it. The Disruptors are going to be really good against this Roach timing.
Oh my goodness.
I love this.
Okay, DisK is going double Stargate. So I said I was wondering if DisK would have some kind of game plan coming into this one. He has got a wild game plan in game number 2. Now, is this going to be Phoenix? Is this going to be Oracles? Is it going to be Void Rays? My money's on Phoenix, but time will tell. It is just a single disruptor for now, so of course it is going to be for harassment. And Cham, There is that gravitic drive coming online. Oh, the just drones all stack up. Oh, no. It's a disaster for Cham. About 4, 5, or 6 drones all popped out right at the moment the disruptor shot was coming in. That is a perfect situation for DisK. Cham, he is counterattacking with the Roach speed, but a little bit of a misclick as he clicks his own Roach by accident. Oh, man, that was about as lucky as you can get in a game of StarCraft.
Yeah, now it's interesting his response to this as well. Now he's building link speed. So I don't know if he canceled it or not, but does seem to feel now that that is something that is necessary in this game for map control, for vision, and swarm hosts behind this. It feels like Cham's got a bunch of ideas, and he's not sure which one to go for.
I don't think this is going to be swarm host. I think this is going to be for a very quick hive.
Okay.
Because I don't think he's seen the Stargate, so he's like, okay, you're going to be relying on robo units very early. I'm going to get a quick quick Viper setup. We'll see. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, no, he just prioritizes the roach speed in order to be able to deal with 1, 2 base all-ins, and 2, just to be able to dodge the disruptors a little bit more effectively. And potentially maybe even get aggressive onto a third base. Now, DisK does get back in here. He gets a couple more drones. The Phoenixes are pretty wild here. I am really curious about what the... Like, is this... This is a really, really old school style of playing. Phoenix Disruptor. There's still no Twilight Council, of course. Obviously, you can't do everything at once. You don't have the money for it, but... He does have a lot of stalkers for nothing besides the, or for like no blink, for no Twilight Council.
I think it might have just been scouting those stalkers or scouting the roaches moving on the map. Even without blink, in medium numbers, stalkers trade pretty well against roaches. So keeping yourself safe right there is probably going to be the play. As another disruptor shot's going to go off. This time the drone pull is not good enough. 5 this is 17 dead drones, Steadfast. At what point do you just stop? At what point do you throw a spire down and say, you know what, this has gone on too long. This is too much value.
Well, I mean, that's what the Viper is for. Is he's looking to abduct that in, but the hive has not yet paid off. The main thing is you just need to be more attentive to it, and it's not easy to do. Phoenixes, though, they are going to show up. They are going to be able to pick up some of these queens, and there's not a lot of queens on the field. It's no additional commitment to the Phoenixes. 6 is like kind of a funny number in this scenario where it's not that high, but this is so much damage right here. The Overlords are completely unprotected. Is there even a single queen? There's 1 queen right now. DisK could lift it, of course, but he is worried about the attack on the other side of the map. Disruptor shot will get avoided. The Observer does see where his opponent's army is with battery overcharge here, and with the War Prism, this should be a defense. Disruptor shot is huge. Battery overcharge keeps that Disruptor alive. Cham is really committing hard into this third base, and he is just not going to be able to break it.
Yeah, no way. Not with overcharge, not with those Disruptor shots as there. But I mean, as I say that, the Roaches are lasting quite a while, and this Colossus now under threat, but that last Disruptor shot, that should end it. As the probes, don't kill your own probes. There we go, DisK. Oh, you know, that was Steadfast. That was a lot closer of an attack than I thought it was going to be. That looked so bad for Cham, and it's still not great, right? He still didn't make the attack happen. He's still pretty far behind in this game, but it did do a much better job of punching through than I expected it to.
Yeah, when all the Disruptor shots were on cooldown, there was a moment where things got a little bit scary. You know, the battery overcharge went on cooldown. The Disruptor shots were all on cooldown. The Stalkers, of course, don't have blink. There was a very small moment, but those Disruptors came back off cooldown. Things did end up, you know, stabilizing for DisK. That was a surprisingly scary attack, though. Now, and DisK did lose a lot of Stalkers there, but he holds the push. I don't know if coming back home with the Phoenixes was the correct call. I understand he was very scared about the attack, but if he had stayed on the other side of the map, he could have just continued to ramp the damage super hard. But of course, he was feeling like he could have died, and it was closer than you might have expected.
Honestly, I think that if he doesn't bring the Phoenix back, he might have died. There were 4 or 5 Ravagers that were just not fighting due to the lifts, and again, given how close that fight was, that may have made the difference. For now, though, Cham, you talked about getting that quick hive. He's got his Vipers done. He's starting to crest supply once again, 160 supply. Now, he'd love to drop a parasitic bomb on these Phoenix. That would be really nice. That would do a lot of value to them, especially as injured as they are. But even still, the Vipers, they're getting so much energy into this game. He's going to have this, oddly enough, you never see a Zerg get armor until the game is very late. But he's going to have this 2-2 timing off of about maybe 175-ish supply as the Zerg. Realistically, despite how much damage DisK has done and despite how much he's killed, that is going to be a pretty powerful timing, all things considered here. There's a lot of supply in the air that with the Hydras and the Vipers, or the Hydras and the Vipers, they're not going to do all that much. They're not going to be able to fight all that well. And this army out of Cham, it's actually, it might be able to do something.
Oh, it's got a huge amount of potential. He definitely wants to keep those Vipers for the Abducts on the Disruptors. And there's no High Templar on the field, despite the fact that we've got a Templar Archives. There's only the one Colossus, but those Disruptors are pretty much everything here for DisK. Where are the Vipers? I think they're in the backfield. Disruptors are well protected, but they are going to be abducted here. Another one will get its shot on the ramp. It's a big one. Last Disruptor does go down, though. DisK is in so much trouble. He's got the blink. Battery overcharge throughout the whole fight was good, but it is going to expire now, and Cham is just going to smash through in game number 2. The Vipers were able to get all the abducts save one. And even though that one abduct didn't land, he didn't prevent the one big disruptor shot. It was far too much. DisK's army was completely reliant on those disruptors. And the Viper timing with that 2-2, it's a very strange and specific timing. And DisK was not prepared at all.
I mean, we can see, honestly, just how much work that +2 armor was doing. You expect in those fights, you see, I mean, there were so many. Yes, not everyone hit. The Vipers did a good job. But there were 2 or 3 massive disruptor shots. And generally, when you're trying to hold something like that, 2 or 3 big disruptor shots, that's enough. But the rest of the army wasn't killing the Lings. It wasn't killing the Roaches, wasn't killing the Hydras. And you run in with reinforcements. Steadfast, that's one of those games where if I'm a Protoss player, I am very upset because I got so much damage on my disruptor drop, on everything else that happened with my Phoenix as well. And then Cham just macros up and kills me. I mean, that has me screaming in certain subreddits afterwards. That doesn't feel
okay,
good.
but no, that's ridiculous. He had the Templar Archives. He didn't have any High Templar.
I'm not saying it.
The Vipers landed 4 out of the 5 abducts. Only one disruptor got its shot off. No. That's not a point to be talking about balance or complaining about it. That's just a complete misread and a failure to realize what attack was coming. Because if 2 feedbacks land and the disruptors are available at the top of the ramp, Cham cannot even think about pushing up that ramp. If he does, he dies so hard. And it is a pretty dedicated setup. No. That's anyone who's going to the balance forums after that one. I get where you're going, but
I didn't say that it's imbalanced. I said that as a Protoss player, I'm still screaming about it because again, it felt good. Obviously mistakes were happening. He didn't go through. Because again, Steadfast, when have Redditors ever proven to be logical? It's a feeling.
No, that was a game that definitely feels bad for DisK because he had the tech required to hold that attack. And if he does hold that attack, it's a maxed out Zerg army that's on Roach Hydra. Once you subtract those Vipers, like it's a very different game. But we got to give credit where credit is due. Cham has played an excellent series so far. Even though things have with the eye test have looked good for DisK many times, it's been Cham who's been making the more important, better moves. And we have him now on match point, spawning down on the bottom left for Starlight Twinkle. It is Cham.
And down to even with opportunities, even with 20 dead drones and everything, not quite reading things well enough in this game too. And now looking for the reverse sweep. It's DisK.
Yeah, this is a tough scenario for DisK. He is really really, like, to your point, this is the situation where frustrations could absolutely set in. And it would be easy to be thinking to yourself, like, oh my God, like, stupid Zerg is so busted. Blah, 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 blah. I defend these attacks. I get so much damage done with the Phoenixes, blah, blah, blah. And, like, he did get a good amount of damage done with the Phoenixes, and he did get a good amount of damage done with the Disruptor drops. But keep in mind, you do have to get damage done with a Disruptor drop. Like, you're committing a lot of things that could be a Stargate, could be an early third base. You're slowing down your economy, you're slowing down your other tech. And it was a nice situation, but Cham also spotted it out very early with that quick setup.
That he did, but so Steadfast. We're in game 3 here. Even with DisK got yes, DisK did not read that attack as well as he should have. There were issues there. That being said, as we look at this game, DisK got a lot of damage done, still was not able to take down Cham. Do you go back to something that's a little bit more standard? Is that how you play? Do you go and throw something even weirder? Like, if you're in Cham's situation right now, what's the play?
In Cham's shoes?
Sorry, in DisK's shoes.
Oh, in DisK shoes, the scouting needs to be a little bit more on point. As Cham, he's thrown a lot of mix-ups at his opponent. He did that Ling pressure in game number 1 into the basically 65 drone Roach Ling Bane all-in after holding his opponent's attack in game number 2. Even though that attack was held well by DisK did lose a lot of important units in the form of those Stalkers, and it wasn't as like, the initial attack was good. The initial defense, I should say, from DisK was good, but it wasn't as good as I initially kind of thought. But I don't know, as DisK, I feel like you need to be a little bit more maybe aggressive with the scouting and make sure that Cham can't pull the wool over your eyes. But that's the difficult part. Cham is a super versatile player, and I can say what DisK needs to do, but executing it and always solving that conundrum of what Cham is going to throw at you, that's not an easy thing.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, you talk about a game like this where your back is against them. You are down 2 games in this series, eliminations on the line. Not only is it hard to figure out what Cham's doing on the best days, you have that stress in the back of your head of, like, I can't lose a map. I cannot make a mistake, because if I do, I'm out of the tournament. And I think realistically, Steadfast, DisK dropping out in the first round of the lower bracket, you know, maybe his form isn't great right now, but dropping out first round lower bracket is gonna be a bit of a disappointment considering how good DisK has been in this region the last couple years. So you have the weight of expectations. You have this weight of not being able to make a mistake because, again, you have 1 life remaining, and you're playing against a player who throws all kinds of looks at you. Well, if DisK was comfortable before, he is certainly not now.
No, I mean, it's definitely not a comfy situation at all. We do have Cham building a surprisingly large number of Lings here, going up to 14 Lings in this early stage. He's not going to go crazy with it, but he is looking to see if he can get some pickups. Ooh, we'll get a nice wraparound on this one Adept as DisK kind of moves it out of position. And that's going to force one of the Oracles back home. The second Oracle had to turn on its Pulsar Beam. That's kind of effective from Cham, and it's definitely going to keep DisK a little bit on the back foot. And that's something as well that Cham is doing really well, is he's forcing his opponent to kind of keep tabs on him where he doesn't want to be. And that's going to make it difficult for DisK to find the scouting information that he's been woefully missing in this game, in this series, I should say.
And that he has. I love the little ring around the rosy. Now damage is getting done. 4 more drones will fall. So at least you get something out of those Oracles. It's a little bit later, and of course later damage does mean that it doesn't count quite as much. But now there's a lair on the way. It's not that super fast lair, though. We're starting it at 5 minutes. It's going to be very standard here. 4th base on the way for Cham, adding in that Baneling Nest. So kind of playing like he played in game number 1. I even think, I think the lair timing was a little bit faster in game 1. So very, very just solid macro play here on Okaini.
Yeah. Now we are going to be seeing what I wanted to see from DisK in game number 1 with that double Robo Colossus. Now it's not as good of a situation for him where he held a fair amount of Ling Bane pressure, but he's gotten a little bit of damage, and at the very least this time he's not going to be caught without any splash. This is how Classic has been playing this matchup a lot. It's very nifty. I'm a big fan. Cham, yeah, he's going similar to game number 1, but without as big of a commitment to the Ling Bane pressure. But as I say that, he does have 4 Banes morphing in, and hey, he's going to take another run at the 3rd base.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw the first couple times, didn't really find the value, and then eventually Banelings connected, and it worked out pretty well. I like what Cham's trying, by the way. Is that mined out, Steadfast? I think it is.
No, it's not. There's nothing mined out here. He might have a drone coming. No, he doesn't.
Okay.
We are just going to see the Banelings getting in on top of the mineral line. No. Nope, DisK is on top of it. Good job. Only 2 probes going down. That is obviously a nice cost-efficient defense for DisK. He's going to be happy about that.
Yeah, Cham.
And yeah, the double Robo Colossus is going to be powerful here.
Yeah, certainly now the Lings are going to look for some of these stalkers. They're not going to find them. I like what Cham's doing, right? Making sure you have pressure on the map, making it hard for DisK to get out there. But behind this, is he gonna? No, he can't be. The army's not big enough, right? These roaches, they're just posturing, but he is running across the map and he is building more. So yes, actually, this is an attack from Cham. Baneling speed's gonna be done soon, but not ready just yet. And seeing these Colossus, I mean, that's got to be a big red light there for Cham. You don't attack into this.
No, he was already starting to drone out of it. I think he just wanted maybe DisK to reveal if he had any tech units. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because he was already droning out of this, and he does get his opponent to reveal what he was doing. Even though it was pretty much a fake attack, and that allows that allows Cham to throw down his infestation pit. He will be almost certainly heading up into that hive, getting towards those Vipers. And DisK, this is where his scouting so far in this series has been not as sharp as it needs to be. He does find 5 drones on that 4th base, or either I guess that's the 5th base, which is great. That is fantastic. But now he needs to know what his opponent is doing next. And to that point, he does throw down the Templar archives, and he is going to get into the main base. If he can get a revelation on this hive, that would be great. He does go for a little bit more damage, and that's really nice, but really important to know what your opponent's doing.
Man, this is more damage than 2 Oracles have gotten in a game of StarCraft than I have seen in quite a while. We're looking at 18 dead drones. But you're right, Steadfast. 18 dead drones, all you want. It's really nice. That's a lot of damage this Zerg has taken. DisK is still in the dark. He doesn't know necessarily that there's a hive on the way. He might be able to figure it out. Just guess. It's, 8 minutes in, and he showed the Colossus so early. But even still, you want that confirmation. You want to know what's happening. And now there's a Phoenix on the way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He doesn't know. He doesn't know if there's a Spire. He doesn't know if there's a hive. He doesn't know if there's an infestation pit for swarm hosts. He doesn't know if there's a quick lurker den. He does fire up the quick storm, but something we gotta mention, because the 4 Colossus plus 2 weapons timing is very powerful, but there is no extended thermal lance. And that is a big problem for these Colossus to be missing that very crucial upgrade. You cannot miss out on an upgrade like that when you're trying to go for an attack timing. Now, he's not necessarily having to go for an attack timing. He's got Storm on the way. He's adding on more probes. He's got that 4th base done. But this is a scenario where, I mean, even without the timing, you still need that upgrade for the Colossus to reach their full potential.
Yeah, certainly, especially as Hydras are starting to hit the field. And yes, most of them are for lurkers, absolutely. And we want to see lurker range and all of those things. But once you even get Hydra range, without extended thermal lance, they can start to tickle those Colossus a little bit. It's harder. It makes it so much harder for Cham than it ever should be. And yes, DisK is getting ready for run bys. He's getting ready to try to pull a Hearthstone a little bit. War Prisms, Zealots everywhere. I mean, look at Cham. Cham has taken so much of the map just because of how passive DisK has been playing. He's got 4 bases on the left side, 2 bases on the middle. Creep spread is doing really solid. DisK has given Cham the map on the idea, I guess, of hitting this just max out timing. And to be fair, Steadfast, this is going to be with +3. This is with a ton of storms, 4 Colossus here. This 2 base max, or this, I guess, 4 base, but this max out timing coming out of DisK, it is going to be tremendously powerful, especially if he is able to feed back those Vipers. But for now, Banelings, they're going to look for something. They're not going to find it here. I guess he's going to try to get on top of the High Templar, but no, the blink backs. Ooh. Oh, almost gets 2.
He does. We can see the, I believe that is an effect of the nerf, actually. The High Templar would have gone down there, but the nerf to the Banelings damage versus light actually does mean they survive. So we see an unintended I guess, or indirectly. No, I would say that's an unintended consequence of the change there. So 2 High Templar do survive that would have otherwise died. We have a Zealot counterattack on the other side of the map on that 5th base. Ling Bane getting into the natural and the 4th base. Cham committing a lot of resources to these attacks, but he is going to find some value. DisK a little bit hesitant about what to do right now. He can just come back home and clean this up. Oh, he's got to be careful of the Banelings. No! The probes just stacked up right into those Banelings. Oh, and all of a sudden now it's 46 dead workers. DisK is trying to transition into carriers, but he just lost more than half of his economy. DisK, no! Those probes, oh my god.
Yeah, he's lost 3 High Templars as well, so... I mean, it feels like DisK has to go all in at this point. The damage that he just took is insane. But how? How do you do that? There are so many lurkers, 10 lurkers on the field, more I assume on the way. Lurker range is done, so it's even harder to get on top of with the Colossus, especially Steadfast, as you pointed out, because these Colossus...
There's still no extended thermal lance.
Still no extended thermal lance. This is...
Oh, and that's so good for Cham right there. He forces another recall. DisK is going to try and go up into +1 air. He cannot afford the carriers yet, but he is... I mean, he is rebuilding probes. Cham, though, he's going to start to move forward. Does find the Oracle. This will be a bit of an awkward engagement for both sides. A lot of the lurkers not in the fight here, and that will actually go pretty well for DisK. Cham losing a lot, getting caught against the wall, even though the extended thermal lance is not available. And now we see the Roaches, they did finish off that 4th Nexus. Cham committing a lot to the counterattack, but he has been mining off of 5 bases, way ahead in economy after that run by, and he's able to remax very quickly. Now he's adding on Vipers.
Yes, I was going to say, Steadfast, the key thing was that there were no Vipers for that last fight, so you can't abduct here. DisK, though, despite his supply not being in the best spot, he is swarming here. Damage in the main base, damage on the north side, damage on the bottom side. This base was killed, by the way. So yeah, the 4th base of DisK is done. He took a lot of economic damage, but that just means that as he maxes out, his army is going to be that much bigger if he can make that happen. Even still, he's making it look so hard for Cham. Cham's going to lose this base as well, and all of a sudden, I mean, DisK is putting himself in a pretty solid position to take this map down as he is, even as a Ling run by shows up the other side. Battery overcharge, Zealots are going to make that okay. But DisK, you do have to continue to make this happen. You do have to maintain your momentum. You give Cham an inch. Even with all the damage that Cham took, he's going to remax. He's going to develop his economy again, redevelop that army. And I feel like DisK did have a solid window there, but backing up right now, worried about these Lings. At this point, we're going to see Cham remax once again, and this did feel like DisK's timing.
I mean, it certainly was DisK's timing, and he got a lot done. He kills a lot of drones. He knocks out one of his opponent's bases, knocks Cham back down to 4 bases. But... well, yeah, I'm thinking about beforehand because Cham is still on 4 bases. He was on 5 after he lost that bottom side base. That was in a previous attack. Regardless, the thing that kept, I think, DisK from committing is the fact that he lost his oracles. He only had 1 observer, and he knew that there was a lot of lurkers. And he knew that they have range. He still doesn't know, or he still hasn't fixed the fact that there is no extended thermal lance. And now these +3 cracklings, they are going to rip through these probes. DTs are going to warp in. That's going to be great. DisK is coming back home again. After, oh man, his economy just keeps taking big hits. Now this battery overcharge will keep the Nexus alive. But, oh, is there DTs on the top side? Yes, there is one. Ooh, is there any detection? DisK, I think at this point, he's far enough behind that he needed to like all in the hatchery. But he is not going to. He goes after drones instead. And... maybe he could have gotten that hatchery if he targets it the whole time. Oh my god, the army on move command! Cham, no, he's got a burrow. The storms are huge, but he will be able to disengage from that and get into a good defensive concave. Holy, that was almost the game.
God, that is so many lurkers. 19, 3 more on the way. And I like this idea. You know what? Yes, technically, Immortal, Colossus, Storm, Archon, Disruptors eventually would be really nice. All of that is a very powerful Protoss army. It's the thing that generally forces a Zerg to go into Skytusk, go into Broodlords. This army can get to a point where it's very hard for the Zerg to fight. But when you're looking at this game where DisK doesn't have the ability to reinforce easily, and when you have, what is that? What are we at? 22? Yeah, 23 lurkers. You have to be very careful in how you engage. And A straight up fight here for DisK. Despite how powerful this army is, again, with the Immortals and +3 and the Storm and everything, it's a really strong army. I mean, attacking to a concave of 23 lurkers, you have to be very careful.
And I mean, in addition to that, there's not that many Immortals. There's only 3 Immortals. There's still no extended Thermal Lance. I hate to harp on it so much, but it makes the Colossus so much less effective. Cham's game plan is very simple. I'm going to force you all in, and I'm going to defend with Mass Lurker, and it is working very well for him. DisK continues to not commit, but this time, I mean, is he going to keep the Nexus alive? Just barely, but all the static defenses are gone, and now another set of Lings, I think, will finish that base off if Cham goes for it. The Lurkers getting some big spines. I mean, DisK, he needs to do something. He needs to push in. I just don't think you can into 24 Lurkers, and this Ling counterattack, that is almost certainly going to spell the end of that base. Oh, DisK even blinks forward to snipe a Viper, but shoots his own Stalker.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I mean, yeah, this is dead. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things you go forward, you're really trying to be flashing, you just trip over your own shoelaces. It would have been cool to knock that Viper down, but at this point, Cham understands that there's nothing for DisK to defend anymore. Those Storms still are very nice.
There's no reason for him to attack right now, I don't think. His opponent's economy is completely null, like it's almost nothing. But he is going to be able to grab an Abduct on one of those Archons, gets the Oracle that was finally rebuilt for Revelation. I feel like it got 1 Revelation and died, and that's about it. And Cham, he's maybe showing a little bit of impatience, but this is still such a good position for him because this army cannot fight 25 Lurkers.
No, it can't. The Oracle was really sorely needed. Again, he's hitting these massive Storms. From his Steadfast, Lurkers have a lot of HP, so Storms are good, but you got to hit a lot of them. And Cham, if he was, like, DisK was approaching max out, his army was getting stronger if he had been able to just keep that third base alive, but he can't afford to build anything more, right? He's got a bunch of Colossus. He's got 3 Colossus, lost 1 at some point. He's got all these High Templar. The Storms continue to find tremendous value, but without these Immortals to buttress this army, you just don't have the beef. Even as these Storms, they are disgusting. They are truly disgusting, but it doesn't matter. The economy is the story of the game. This army, quite frankly, this army doesn't matter anymore. It's all about the money.
Well, no, I don't say that. If this army goes away, DisK walks across the map and wins the game. Cham does not need to be doing this. This is, as far as strategic... Oh, no, disruptors. Oh, he gets some big shots on the Lurkers. Cham shouldn't be here right now. Like, I get it. He feels like he's won this game, and as long as he executes correctly, he probably has. There is a Zealot counterattack on the bottom side. Big warp in coming on in. We will see Cham, though. He can just back away. The attack is a little bit unnecessary to me from Cham, but it is still going to work out well enough. DisK will find his base on the top side, but once again, he still needs to win the game with this army.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, you're talking about Cham not attacking. Yes, I was a little hyperbolic there, but he dropped the Spire. Broodlords would be a great decision against this army. But he's only been on about 50 probes or 50 drones this entire game. He's been mining more than DisK, but that's just because DisK hasn't had an economy in the slightest. And now he's going to lose some more Hydras as well. And this bank is not incredible for Cham. Like, it's not all that big. He's less than 1,000 minerals. He's got a big gas count, but that's fine. That's, again, because he's had that rich gas base, which is now mined out. There is a world here where DisK, if he starts to long distance mine a little bit, and you're right, this game should be over. But this army that he's made, if he gets those big disruptor shots, if he softens things up so it's only 1 disruptor to kill a bunch of Lurkers instead of 2, you have to be very, very careful, and opting into a fight feels so hard. But DisK has opened the door again, just a little bit.
Oh, don't attack into those Lurkers. Well, he cannot afford to lose even anything right now, but he's going to try and bash through one side. Big disruptor and Storms on the Hydras. But even still, with these massive fights, that's another big set of Storms. Ooh, feedbacks on the Vipers. No, not going to come on in. Blinding Cloud is going to be good. And as Cham whittles away at DisK's army, DisK knows he cannot continue to trade.